My stepsister claimed she'd never be loved, then attempted to steal my partner. I'm a 24-year-old woman, and I need to share this to clear my mind and figure out if I'm the one losing perspective here. This involves my stepmother, Margaret, 52, my stepsister, Clara, 22, my father, Daniel, 55, and my boyfriend of 3 years, Ethan, 26. To understand the situation, some background is necessary. My biological mother left when I was 8. One day, while my father was at work and I was at school, she packed her bags and left a note on the kitchen counter, saying she couldn't handle motherhood anymore. My father had to explain to his young daughter why her mom wasn't coming back. For 2 years, he raised me alone. When I was 10, he met Margaret at a parent-teacher event. Her daughter, Clara, was my age but attended a different school. Clara has spina bifida and uses a wheelchair. Margaret, recently divorced, was working as a substitute teacher to support herself. Margaret started visiting our home more often, bringing Clara for playdates that sometimes extended to dinner. I was thrilled to have another girl around, especially one who seemed so sweet. Clara was reserved but polite, with expressive eyes that made you want to care for her. When I was 12, my father and Margaret married. She quit her job since my father's plumbing business was doing well, and we moved to a larger, wheelchair-accessible house. Margaret managed the household while my father worked long hours. Clara and I shared the upstairs, with her room equipped with a stairlift. The early years were fine. Margaret ensured I felt included, despite Clara needing extra attention for medical appointments and therapy. She helped with my homework, attended my soccer games, and made sure I had everything I needed. Clara and I got along decently. We watched movies, and she helped me with math while I assisted with her English assignments. At 15, I met Ethan at a summer camp for kids with disabilities and their siblings. I was there for Clara and Ethan for his autistic younger brother. Ethan, 17, was working part-time while finishing high school. He was kind to Clara during camp activities, making her laugh and bringing out her more outgoing side. After camp, Ethan started visiting our house, initially bonding with Clara over books and movies. He treated her like any other teen, not someone to pity. My father respected Ethan's work ethic, and Margaret seemed pleased Clara had a friend. Over the next 2 years, Ethan became a regular visitor. Clara lit up when he arrived and got upset if he canceled plans. I didn't think much of it, busy with high school and a part-time retail job. In my senior year, Ethan began spending time with me alone, helping with SAT prep and job interviews. One spring evening, on our back porch after Clara went inside, he confessed he'd liked me for a while but hesitated due to our group dynamic. We started dating that summer before I left for college. Clara's attitude shifted immediately. She became moody and short with me, monopolizing Ethan's attention when he visited and getting upset if he focused on me. I told Margaret I suspected Clara had a crush on Ethan. She nodded and promised to talk to her. I went to college 3 hours away while Ethan stayed local, working full-time at an auto shop. Clara started her senior year. During my visits home, Clara remained distant, though Margaret said she was just adjusting to my absence. Ethan and I managed a long-distance relationship, visiting each other when possible. Clara warmed up slightly but acted oddly around Ethan. After college, I moved back home briefly to job hunt. Ethan and I planned to move in together once I found stable work. Clara, now in community college taking online classes for mobility reasons, became fixated on Ethan, asking when he'd visit, if she could call him, or if he'd watch certain movies with her. One day, while I was at a job interview, Ethan stopped by. My father later told me Clara suggested they watch a romantic movie and tried to get him to sit closer. When he kept his distance, she cried, saying no one would love her because of her disability. Ethan, feeling awkward, left early. I told Margaret, who said Clara struggled with social boundaries due to limited interaction and promised to handle it. 2 weeks later, I started a marketing job in a nearby town. Ethan and I found an affordable apartment. When I told Margaret about our move, her face fell, and Clara stormed off crying. My father was happy for us, but Margaret grew distant. Over the next month, as we prepared to move, Margaret remarked on how I was leaving the family and how Clara would miss me. Clara alternated between ignoring me and being overly attached, while her medical complaints increased. A week before our move, Clara had what Margaret called a panic attack, hyperventilating about my departure. Margaret urged us to delay until Clara was stable, and my father agreed. Ethan was frustrated but agreed to wait. This pattern continued for 2 months. Every time we planned to move, Clara had a medical crisis, breathing issues, or severe pain. Margaret said doctors were concerned about Clara's stress levels and advised against changes in her environment. I began suspecting these episodes weren't entirely medical, but felt guilty for thinking so. Last month, Margaret asked for a private talk. She expressed worry about Clara's mental health, saying doctors suggested Ethan's presence calmed her and asked if he could spend more time at our house, even move into our spare room temporarily to help Clara adjust. I told her Ethan was my partner, not Clara's caregiver, and we had our own plans. Margaret called me selfish, saying I didn't understand Clara's struggles and that keeping Ethan from her was unkind. I was shaken for days. Ethan was shocked when I told him, confirming he had no romantic interest in Clara and found Margaret's suggestion inappropriate. Yesterday, things escalated. Margaret invited me to a coffee shop looking nervous. She recounted how she'd treated me like her own daughter, then said Clara was deeply in love with Ethan, and her medical episodes were triggered by seeing us together. She claimed Clara believed Ethan liked her but stayed with me out of obligation. Margaret asked me to end my relationship with Ethan temporarily so Clara could explore a connection with him, promising I could have him back if it didn't work. She said it was my chance to repay her for her years of care. I told her Ethan wasn't an object to be passed around and had never shown romantic interest in Clara. Margaret insisted men don't always know what they want, and that Ethan might surprise himself if given a chance with Clara. When I refused, she cried, calling me selfish and saying Clara might never find love due to her disability, but Ethan could look past it. I left without responding. I told Ethan everything, and he called Margaret's request manipulative and inappropriate, reaffirming his commitment to me. Now, in our new apartment, Margaret keeps calling and texting. My father called, upset, asking why I was hurting Margaret and refusing to compromise for Clara. I haven't told him Margaret's exact request, unsure if he'd believe me. Margaret always presents herself as the reasonable one. I worry about Clara if this comes out, but Margaret's words haunt me. I see now Clara's upset over Ethan and me and her medical crises align with our relationship milestones. Margaret called me selfish for wanting my own life. Am I wrong to refuse her? Is there a compromise I'm missing? I love my family, but I can't sacrifice my relationship for Clara's happiness. Ethan's been kind to her, but that doesn't mean he owes her romance. Should I tell my father? I fear it could tear our family apart, but Margaret's request feels like a betrayal. Update 1. Family lies and escalating tensions. I didn't expect to update so soon, but things have spiraled. After my last post, many suggested I tell my father about Margaret's request. I hesitated, fearing the fallout, but events forced my hand. Margaret kept texting, urging me to reconsider and sending articles about supporting family members with disabilities. Clara texted, asking about Ethan and if he mentioned her. Ethan, frustrated by the drama, suggested setting boundaries and telling my father the truth. Last Tuesday, my father called, confused and upset. Margaret had told him Ethan and I broke up, and Ethan was now interested in Clara. She claimed I was struggling to accept this and suggested I stay at Ethan's apartment to adjust. I was stunned, lied to push her narrative. I told my father we were still together, and he promised to talk to Margaret about the misunderstanding. I left work early and confronted Margaret at home. She and Clara went silent when I entered. Margaret claimed her lie was a hypothetical scenario about prioritizing Clara's needs. Clara admitted Margaret told her Ethan would spend more time with her, raising her hopes. I asked Clara if she thought Ethan had romantic feelings for her. She cited his kindness, calling her smart and beautiful, as evidence, but these were friendly gestures, not romantic. Margaret had spun them into something more. When my father came home, I told him everything, Margaret's coffee shop request and her lie about our breakup. He listened, then asked Margaret to explain. She claimed I was cruel to Clara about her feelings for Ethan and exaggerated her suggestion to consider Clara's emotions. Clara backed her, saying I was mean about her crush and that Margaret was protecting her. My father, caught between us, suggested family counseling. I saw Margaret had prepped Clara to paint me as the villain. I refused counseling, saying I wouldn't engage with people who lie to manipulate. My father called me dramatic, comparing me to my biological mother for abandoning the family. I packed my things and moved in with Ethan. It's been 2 weeks and I haven't returned. My father wants me to come home and talk. Margaret apologized for the misunderstanding, and Clara asked why I'm being harsh. None have admitted the truth, Margaret's request, Clara's hopes, or the lie to my father. They act like this is a typical family spat. I can't pretend everything's fine after Margaret's manipulation. Ethan's supportive, offering to talk to my father, but I'm unsure it'll help. I love my family, but Margaret's actions and Clara's complicity hurt. My father's enabling makes it worse. How do I move forward when my family denies their betrayal? How do I handle the guilt of distancing myself from those who claim to love me but disrespect my boundaries? Update 2. Cutting ties and finding peace. Things got worse before they got better. I'm now in a new city with Ethan in our own apartment, finally feeling free. After my last update, Margaret escalated. She called my workplace, claiming family emergencies to get me home. She contacted my college friends, saying I was having a breakdown and needed to return. I had to clarify the truth to my boss and friends, which was humiliating. Worst, she called Ethan's employer, alleging he acted inappropriately with a disabled family member and that we might press charges. Ethan had to explain the situation to his boss, showing texts to prove our relationship. His boss believed him, but the ordeal showed Margaret's lengths. I wrote letters to my father and Clara. To my father, I detailed Margaret's request, lies, and manipulations, saying I loved him but couldn't continue a relationship if he enabled her. To Clara, I said I didn't blame her for her feelings, but that she had no right to interfere in my relationship, wishing her happiness with someone who truly wanted her. After a week of silence, my father asked to meet for coffee. He looked exhausted, admitting he confronted Margaret. She initially denied everything but admitted, suggesting I prioritize Clara's happiness. She justified lying about our breakup to spare Clara's feelings. My father apologized for doubting me and comparing me to my mother, wanting to rebuild our bond. He suggested a family meeting to resolve things. I agreed to one meeting at a neutral location with Ethan present, warning I'd leave if Margaret lied. The meeting was a disaster. Margaret apologized vaguely, refusing to admit she asked me to end my relationship. Clara accused me of jealousy and claimed Ethan led her on with kindness. Ethan clarified he was never interested in her romantically. Clara cried, insisting I was controlling him, and Margaret accused Ethan of rejecting Clara due to her disability. I realized they hadn't changed, still believing Ethan secretly wanted Clara. My father urged me to stay, but I left, seeing no progress. Margaret's parting words compared me to my mother, cementing her view of me as an obstacle. Ethan and I moved the next day for his new job. Life here is calm, no manipulation or guilt trips. I found a better job and Ethan's thriving. My father calls occasionally, but our talks are distant. He hopes I'll reconcile with Margaret and Clara, but I won't. Margaret's final text blamed me for Clara's heartbreak, and I blocked her and Clara. I no longer feel guilty. Margaret saw me as a tool for Clara's happiness, not a daughter. Clara viewed me as competition. My father prioritized peace over my well-being. I'm building a life with people who respect me like Ethan, who's honest and supportive. Love doesn't demand sacrifice of your happiness or tolerance of lies. Update 3. Closing the chapter 6 months after moving, I'm certain leaving was the right choice. Ethan and I are saving for a house, and he got a promotion. My new job is fulfilling, and we've made friends through a hiking group. Life feels normal and peaceful. My father visited twice. The first was tense. He pushed for reconciliation with Margaret and Clara. I explained I was protecting myself from their manipulation, not holding grudges. The second visit was better. He accepted I wasn't returning and focused on our relationship. He's proud of our life but shared details confirming my decision. After I left, Clara believed Ethan would return for her, and Margaret encouraged a plan to surprise him in our new city. My father stopped it, more concerned about appearances than the inappropriateness. Margaret spread lies to their social circle, portraying me as a jealous stepsister bullying Clara. Clara started dating someone from an online support group and seems happy. But neither she nor Margaret acknowledged the irony of her moving on after letting go of Ethan. My father suggested I congratulate Clara, but I refused. She never apologized for her role in Margaret's schemes. I've chosen to surround myself with people who value honesty and respect. My father may never fully understand, but I can only control my choices. This chapter is closed, and I'm focused on a future free from manipulation. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.